Well, I have a message for all of you woke leftists who call Israel is doing a genocide in Gaza. So let me be a little bit clear. In 1948, there were around 600,000 Palestinians in Israel. They were not called Palestinians then, they were called South Syrians or Arabs. Palestinian is something that they started use only in 1964 by the Yasser Arafat gang, the PLO, and there were about 600,000 Jews living in this country. Now, those 600,000 are now close to 5.6 millions. So let me ask you, where is the genocide if 600,000 have become to 5.6 millions? There were in Gaza in 1967, during the Six-Day War, when Israel got into Gaza and took control of Gaza, 350,000 Palestinians living in Gaza. Today there are more than 2 million. So, again, where is the genocide exactly? 350,000 have become 2 millions? Now, the second accusation about Israel is ethnic cleansing. What a nonsense. In 1948, there were more than 800,000 Jews in all Arab countries in the Middle East. 800,000. You know how many there are today? Less than 3,000. Quite a lot of the Arab countries don't have any single Jew left. So where is exactly the ethnic cleansing took place? In Israel or in the Arab countries? Almost 800,000 Jews fled those countries because of pogroms like the Parhud pogrom that killed many Jews in Iraq. So they escaped, they came to Israel. And when they came to Israel, they didn't start playing, we are refugees, we need a Jewish UNRWA to support us and all the generation after us for the next 2,000 years. No, we worked hard, we turned a real lousy country, and we turned it into a beautiful one. And if you really want to know how lousy it was, I suggest you to read the wonderful book by Mark Twain called Innocents Abroad. He was here in the 19th century, late 19th century, and he's talking about a country that was almost empty. He says, we were riding our horses a whole day, we didn't see a single person. We were riding in the Hula Valley, not a single vegetation. We saw goats eating rocks there because there's nothing else to eat. So we took this lousy country that was really in miserable situation. Sincerely, you can download it from the internet, Innocents Abroad by Mark Twain, and you realize what country we had. And now Israel, after really hard work, draining the swamps, turning quite a large part of the Negev desert, the southern part of Israel is called the Negev, and it's a real desert, we turn it green. Take for example Beersheba. When Israel got into Beersheba in 48, and Israel didn't get to Beersheba for the first time in 1948. Israel got to Beersheba about 3,800 years ago when Abraham went there and defined the world. So Abraham well is still in Beersheba. So we came to the Beersheba. There were few trees there, a tiny little miserable Turkish town in the south of the country. Go to the Beersheba today, a marvelous university, a big one, a very big hospital take care of the Jewish people of Beersheba and all the Muslim Bedouins around there in the Negev. But when you drive your jeep to the east of Beersheba, you go to the mountain, you drive for hours in woods. They planted so many trees that it's all green there, and there's a huge water reservoir there. And research found out that when you plant so many trees, the average temperature a year is lower by 2 centigrade degrees, and the amount of rain is increasing by 20%. So Beersheba, that used to be dusty desert city, is now green with parks, with vegetation, woods around it, so you can go out and have a picnic and take a nice trips in the mountains. So the Jewish people came here in 1948. They didn't look like Palestinians. Oh, we are so miserable. The United Nations should protect us because Hamas is not letting us going into this tunnel to survive. The UN is supposed to do that, and the UN through this organization called UNRWA is to keep our families for the next 2 million years well fed, getting education for free, getting food for free, getting money for free. And the only job we have to do is two things. First, to make more children. This is how they grew from 350,000 to 2 million. And be a terrorist, make rockets, and launch them on Israel. Did you know that in the last 17 years since Hamas got into power, they launched more than 20,000 rockets on Israeli civilians? So what we did, we developed a system to protect us. But the aim is very simple. We launch rocket hoping to hit Israeli civilians. The people who were butchered and burned in the kibbutzim near Gaza Strip, they used to spend every other day in a special shelter that each one had in his home. In the past, we used to run to a bomb shelter that every city have. But since from Gaza till it reach, after you hear the siren, until the missiles hit your kibbutz or the city of Sderot, which is there you have only 12 seconds. So 12 seconds is not enough. So at night, whole families used to sleep in those bomb shelters. Do you know that by law, every house in Israel must have such a secure room? Yes, yes, every house in Israel. Again, in the past, under the building, underground, there used to be a bomb shelter, but with the modern missiles that are coming fast, we, according to the law, must have a secure room, which means the walls are thicker with concrete. There's a metal window that you can shut it. It will protect you, and it's very heavy and very thick, and it will protect you. No other countries and no other people I know around the world are living with a bomb shelter inside their own homes. So that's what we had. So we took this lousy country that was miserable under the Turks, and we turned it to in such a flourishing economy that let me tell you that the GDP of Israel is higher than Germany, the most prosperous country in Europe, is higher than England, it's higher than France, which are much, much bigger and had much more population than Israel. We have a GDP which is higher than them. How do we do that? Well, once they asked Golda Meir if she thinks that Jewish people are clever, and she said, you're talking about people who wandered the whole of the Middle East for 40 years, and then they settled in the only place where there is no oil. That's not being very clever at all. You have to remember this is the Holy Land, not the oily land. That's our problem. But we turned this, and we made our economy based on, first of all, high tech. We are number one country in the world in the number of startups. If you count the number of people in Israel, compare them to the number of people in the United States, we have a lot more startup companies in Israel than in the Silicon Valley. Almost half of the stocks you buy in Nasdaq in New York, which is the stock market for technology and high tech, almost half of them are Israeli companies. So we turn this country blooming, flourishing, with vibrant and very, very successful economy. The economy is based also on agriculture, but it's high end, most advanced agriculture. In the past, we used to sell only one thing from this country, oranges. Now, I don't think we sell any orange at all. What we sell is knowledge, like how to irrigate your fields if you are in a semi-desert or desert area. So we have the system that was developed in the 60s in the kibbutz in the south. It's called the drip irrigation. Well, there was a man in a kibbutz called Chatzerim to the west of Beersheba, about 15, 20 minutes ride. You are there. And he walked in the field and he saw a green spot in his field. And he realized there was a water pipe, there was a little leak, and the water was coming drop by drop, dripping out of this hose. So after a lot of work, they developed a drip irrigation which irrigate almost all over the world in desert and arid land. Then we have an economy based on diamonds. We are the number one center for trading with diamonds. It's an old Jewish tradition to deal with diamonds. We have, now it's stopped because of the war, but we had quite a nice, good tourism coming to the Holy Land, following the footsteps of Jesus and looking at the beautiful and variety of nature that we have here. We have the lowest place on earth, the Dead Sea, and we have on the north, on the borders with Syria and Lebanon, Mount Hermon. So you can have skiing in the winter on top of Mount Hermon. You go down to the Dead Sea, it's getting pretty warm, and the temperature of the water is just right. So you can go and have a ski vacation for half a day, let's say, in the Golan Heights. Then you drive all the way to the Dead Sea, and you can walk into the water and float on the water. We float on the water because the Dead Sea is 10 times saltier than any other ocean. 30% of the water is all different kind of salts and minerals. And these minerals are also a major export of Israel, a very, very big one, because the Dead Sea is very, very rich with potassium, and potash is a very important thing for agriculture. It really helps the plants grow. So we are selling hundreds of millions of dollars of this potash around the world. And the second thing that we make in the Dead Sea, we are using the bromide. It's also rich with bromide. And you know what they make out of bromide? We make a very interesting medicine called Valium. So when you go down to the Dead Sea, not only you have the highest column of air and the best oxygen in the world there, and even in the winter it's nice and warm. I mean, I don't advise you to go there in August. You're gonna get burnt just getting out of your air condition. But in the winter it's marvelous, and there's a little bit of this bromide in the air, so that makes the people who live near the Dead Sea, and there's several kibbutzim, there are lots of hotels there, it makes them the most calm, peaceful people in the whole of the Middle East and probably in the whole world. They are inhaling Valium daily as they live there. And that makes them very, very unique in this crazy region called the Middle East. So forget about genocide. The number of Palestinians is increasing all the time. Israel, that all the world is watching the way we breathe air, and if we cough, somebody will have something to say. So are you out of your mind? We are going to do a genocide when the whole world is looking for us all day long? And then uh, we accuse, or you're not you, I mean, there are lots of people running in the street calling for Israel doing genocide, which is nonsense. The last thing I would like to say is about the number of dead. Everybody said today there's 30,000. Tomorrow they said there were 32,000 dead Gazans. Recently I heard 40,000, and one fool even said 100,000. Now, let me tell you very, very precisely. At the beginning of this war, after Hamas attacked us on 7 October, for the first 2.5 weeks, we didn't do anything. I mean, we did prepare everybody. We made extensive training because the reservists who were called, and there were about 300,000 of them who were called for active duty. Not all of them were reservists, but the majority were. So they had to train them. Some of them were after 1 year without training, some of them were 2 years without training, and especially we had to train them how to fight in tunnels. So we built the replicas of tunnels under the ground, and we taught everybody before he entered Gaza how you're supposed to fight in underground tunnels. Now, in those 2.5 weeks, Israel dropped about 18 million leaflets from the air, and Israeli soldiers who speak Arabic made 15 million phone calls. I mean, almost every Gazan got 1 or 2 or 3 phone calls from the Israeli IDF, Israel Defense Force, who told them to go to the Muasi. Muasi is an area close to the border with Egypt, a little bit to the west of Rafah. And they told them, if you go there, you are safe. If you stay at home, we are going to bomb your homes. I don't know if any other country are not only telling them leave your home, but tell them where to go, and also telling them exactly when we are going to hit. And then when they blame us for that, because they blame Israel for anything recently, so we start warning neighborhood by neighborhood. Your neighborhood, not the whole city of Khan Yunis will be bombed, but your personal neighborhood. So if you stay there, you might get killed. But be reasonable. You are parents and you have children. You want to stay there and get killed in buildings when you have an opportunity to go and get safe? This is unthinkable to think that a man will risk his wife and children just to make Hamas happy. So I would say more than 95% of the Gazans have moved to the safe zone, and they're really safe there. And from there on, what you see in the videos, you see destroyed building. By the way, I've seen a lot worse than that. A lot of destroyed building, but I've seen a lot worse than that in Mosul, in Iraq, and in Homs in Syria during the civil war. It looks a lot worse than that. So you see empty buildings, but inside these buildings there are Hamas operative terrorists who are dressed as civilians. So that's why you think we are killing civilians, which is one big nonsense. So during those air raids on Gaza, the artillery is shelling, the Air Force is bombing, the tanks are shooting, the infantry is shooting. All of the Hamas police disappeared. You can see by your own eyes when you watch the news how they're looting the the food. Everybody is doing whatever they want. The brave fighters of Hamas are hiding like mice in the tunnels underground, and they want to convince you that there is a man who works in the Ministry of Health, which is part of Hamas in Gaza, who goes calmly between the bombs, between the air raids, and he counts exactly how many women, how many children, how many elderly, how many got killed. So a statistician, I'm sorry, but I forgot his name, in the States, he said for 16 days during this whole war so far, every day there was exactly the same number of dead people, which doesn't make any sense. A war sometimes is more intensive, sometimes is less intensive, but 16 days, one after the other, they just added the same number. I mean, this Hamas guy doesn't leave his office, or most probably he lives in a cave, and all he's doing is communicate to journalists who believed him. Let me explain that the last operation, a big operation that we had in Gaza called Tzuk Eitan, the fortified cliff, strong cliff, Tzuk Eitan, Hamas says there are 25,000 dead Gazans. At the end of that operation, they found there were less than 2,500, so 10 times less than what they say. The same happened in this lie about the hospital. Israel bombed a hospital, and in less than 1 minute, they already counted 500 dead. Not 499, not 501, exactly 500, and they counted them so quickly. They are geniuses in mathematics. 500 dead. A day later, after inquiry, a big study that was done by Israel, they found the photos. It was a failed missiles from jihadic Islam who was malfunctioning and instead of reaching Israel, he fell down, like what happened to about 25% of the rockets who falls on Gaza and also killing Gazans. And it was not a hospital, it was the parking lot, and it was not 500, it was something between 50 to 100. So whatever they say is one big lie. And so many people around the world are falling to that, to think that during a full-scale war we know exactly how many are killed, especially that we know in the past they are multiplying the numbers by tenfold. Now, even we take those ridiculous 30,000, which is a made-up numbers, then there is a great military historian who is a professor in West Point, the Military Academy of the States. His name is John Spencer. I urge you to open the internet or YouTube and listen to him or read the article, the very big article he wrote in Newsweek. He said that in Mosul in Iraq, when the Marines trying to eradicate and kill all ISIS there are about 3,500 ISIS in a town. In order to kill them, the Marines have killed more than 10,000 civilians. So, to every ISIS man killed, there were 3 civilians got killed, which is not too bad because the average in urban war, that's what John Spencer says. I'm not an expert at that. He said an average normal urban war, there will be 9 casualties that are civilians to 1 combatant killed. In every urban war, 90% of the casualties are civilians. Unfortunately, that's the law of war, especially when you fight from inside the neighborhoods, from inside the schools, from inside mosque, or even from hospital. They were shooting at us from hospitals. Now in Gaza, Israel is fighting 35,000 Hamas terrorists. 35,000. That's 10 times more than those 3,500 in Mosul. That means that if we would have killed by now the same number as the US Marines killed in Iraq, they should have been not 30,000 dead Gaza, they should have been 300,000. This is mathematics. I'm not good at that, but this is a simple mathematics. 10 times more than 30,000 is 300,000. And even according to their ridiculous number, because even there are $30,000, and believe me, they're not, at least 13,000 of them are killed Hamas terrorists that we have killed during this operation. So it's not 30,000, it's 30,000 minus 13, it will be 17,000. Even that is at least 2 times higher than the numbers. I'm quite sure that at the end of this war, they found out that the number of dead people in Gaza were a lot less than 10,000. Now, the ratio of Israel in this war is 1.4. 1.4 civilians are being killed for killing 1 combatant. So, what is John Spencer is saying? Not only Israel is not a genocide, barbaric attacking, he says it's a remarkable, the most moral army in the history of the world. And we've been always like that. But those who believe in the propaganda, lies of Hamas, they think the difference. But this is not the reality and not the truth. We are 10 times more successful in saving the life of civilians than any other countries in the world, including the United States. So these are a little bit of the true fact about what is happening today. Forget about genocide, it's nonsense, it doesn't happen, will never happen. And the second story is, of course, that we are facing an army that is dressed like civilians. He stashed all his RPGs and weapons in those apartments. The people who go there says that almost every house they go, they find under the bed of the children, weapons and RPG, grenades, mines. Almost every third house have an opening to an underground tunnel, and we are fighting these people. And you think we are killing civilians? Why would we? I mean, everybody hates us anyway. First of all, we are not like that. Jews, they really follow that do not murder out of the Ten Commandments. They really follow that. They brought it to the world. And B, the whole world is watching us. We might be out of our mind to do something that the whole world is talking about. And the last thing I would like to say is now another blame on Israel is that we are starving the people of Gaza with humanitarian aid. So let me be very, very clear on that. Never in the history of wars, from uh, Abel killing Cain, from the wars of the Romans, the Greeks, the Persians, anyone till today, no country ever gave aid to its enemies. Russia is not giving any aid to Ukraine. The United States is not giving aid to the Houthis. And Yemen is a real place where people are dying from malnutrition, babies. Yemen is the worst place on earth, and this is not according to me, it's according to the United Nations. So why should Israel give them aid? You want, there is a border with Egypt, open this border, send 200 million trucks of humanitarian aid, and the problem is solved. Why should we give aid to the Gazans? Did it help us? We gave them work every day. 20,000 people from Gaza used to come to work in Israel. We gave them free electricity, we gave them free water. We gave them medical care in our hospitals. You know whom do we save? Yahya Sinwar, the Iraqi terrorist who launched this barbaric attack on us on 7 October. He had a tumor in his brain, and his life was saved in the Israeli hospital. His wife was treated in Israeli hospital. So this man that his life was saved doesn't change a thing. He wants to destroy the state of Israel. So now all that is gone. In the West Bank, every day more than 200,000 Palestinians came to work in Israel. Now the minimum salary in Israel is $1,500 a month. The average salary in the Palestinian West Bank is about $300 to $400 a month. So they used to come here, get a salary that is much, much, much better than what they can make in the West Bank. And what is does that help us? Nothing. In the last survey they've done about a month ago, it found out that between 70 to 80% of the people of Gaza, the Arab people of the West Bank, support Hamas and support what they did on 7th October. I really hope that our government is not going to be foolish enough, because they are doing some really foolish thing in this war, to let them come and work in Israel, and I don't think the Israeli would allow that. Because when Hamas got into the kibbutzim, they knew exactly who live where. Who is the in every kibbutz we have kind of first responders who can go rush and get weapons and protect the communities, and they were unfortunately the only one who protected their communities for those horrible 6-7 hours until the IDF came to help them. So they knew exactly where to go, where the arms are, who are the heads of this first responder, who lives where, and who told them that? The workers who used to come in those kibbutzim. One of the women who was kidnapped into Gaza and was murdered, she was an activist pro-Palestinian so much that she drove her own car, paying her own fuel, to drive poor young children from Gaza, from the Gaza border crossing to the hospital in Beersheba, where they were operated for cancer and other things. It didn't help a lot that she was a pro-Palestinian, really believe in coexistence. She was murdered by Hamas like they killed about 30 workers from Thailand. What did the Thailandese do to them? There were several people from Nepal who were killed there. I mean, it was just, go and kill everybody just because they live in a place called Israel, which they want to see destroyed. So all of that is over. And after the war, they will have a problem because Egypt, I don't know if you know, but the inflation of Egypt is now 36%. It's rising all the time. The external debt of Egypt is so high that they might get into bankruptcy. So there's no work for them in Egypt. 110 million people in Egypt don't need 2 million Palestinians to come to work for them. They don't have enough work and food for themselves. I don't know what they're going to do, but at least maybe they will build their own industry, their own agriculture. I don't know. Or they keep on doing nothing and let the whole world, UNRWA, to pay to them. And one more thing I would like to add, probably you heard that the four leaders of Hamas who lives in Qatar have it between them together $11 billion. Now you ask yourself, how do these four leaders of Hamas have $11 billion to split between them? It's very simple. A little bit before this operation, there was a massive buying of what we call shorts. Shorts in the stock market means that you bet that the stock market of a company or the stock market of a special country, all companies in Gaza are going to fall. And the deeper they fall, the more expensive and more money you're going to get. And we're talking about lots of money. So probably the leaders of Hamas who knew exactly that on the 7th of October they're going to launch this attack, they knew that it will hit for short or maybe longer term the Israeli economy, and the stock market will make Israeli companies go down because there's a war, it's difficult to export, it's difficult to find workers, a lot of them are serving the military duty, and they made hundreds of millions of dollars. Since this is already the fourth uh, cycle of uh, heavy fighting between Israel and Hamas since they were elected in 2007, every time they did the same trick, it made them billionaires. And I would like to add a small interesting thing. They expect, I don't know, the Arab countries like Qatar or UAE to pay for the rebuilding of Gaza. Everybody's supposed to pay. Who's not supposed to donate a dime? It's those four leaders, those billionaires. They don't give their own people nothing. They just expect the whole world, another country, somebody else to do the job for them because they have caused Gaza to be ruined by the amount of damages to the buildings, ruined because there's no more work from Israel, no more free electricity, and no more water to the Gazans. So this is the way I see this. I hope that if you uh, disagree with me, write in the comments what you have to say. Thank you for listening. I almost fell asleep. Sorry.